Got to case because I decided to go to law school after changing my career idea from international relations. I narrowed it down to 3 schools, but decided I really wanted to be in an urban setting. And 2 of the 3 were in urban settings, New York and Cleveland. New York was where I grew up. That was a rat race. I wasn't going there. So I decided I would go to Case after I considered my grandfather's advice. When I was about 12 years old, he sat me down and he said, I want to tell you one thing, young man, never go to Cleveland. It's a horrible place. I had a horrible experience there. So when I'm at that decision point, and I said to myself, do I ignore him and follow my judgment, or do I listen to him? I said, maybe he doesn't know what the way Cleveland is today. And that turned out to be good, so I'm here. I saw wanting to have a career pursuing causes with passion, but I didn't know how I was going to do that. And I didn't know that until I came to Case Law School, had the moot court experience after 10 years of debate in high school and college, and I knew I could do the stand-up piece. And I decided after my clerkship, right after law school for Jack Day on the Ohio Court of Appeals, that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a trial lawyer. And that's when I cemented the kind of law I would practice. But it was in law school that I was sure that's what I wanted to do once I was here, and after I changed courses at the end of college. I got here in 1972, brand new building. Different than my Colgate undergraduate experience up in the hills of Hamilton, New York, and the Shenango Valley. This was different. And I walked into this building, brand new, and I said, this is serious. I'm into a serious profession here. This is no longer, philosophy and religion. So I got excited, and I said, I'm on to a new stage of life. First year, civil procedure, Sidney Jacoby. He worked for the Judge Jackson at the Nuremberg trials. He was a major lawyer in his day, and he was teaching civil procedure. Old school Socratic method. We sat in a big amphitheater with 5 or 6 rows, and he used the Socratic method, but he did it with gentleness. He was a real, true friend and mentor to people. And he was tough when you got asked a question, didn't answer it right, he would put you through the paces. But he was by far and away the motivator for me at the beginning of law school. I said, if this is what it's about, I want to achieve, in his eyes, what he's looking for me to give him. And so the short story is that he would call on 3 or 4 students a day. I didn't get called on until February. Every night I was preparing more. Every night I was reading more until I was finally reading the footnotes cited in the cases that he had. And he called on me in February. I answered 5 questions, and he wanted to see me after class. I said, what did I do? I was scared. And he offered me a job to be his research assistant. So he's the one that taught me firsthand how important preparation was and hard work was. And that's the lesson I learned from him. Never forgot it, and it stood me in good stead in my career. This is where I met my late wife, and she and I were in the same class, and we got married a week after the bar exam following law school. Had 2 incredible daughters. I lost her at a very early age when she was 51, suddenly, but she made the law school experience for me because I was in love and going to school for a profession at the same time, and we shared that, and that became a sort of a foundational experience in my life. Moot court convinced me that I could do what I do and did for my career. I debated for 10 years, traditional debate, extemporaneous speech. I won a lot of awards, but I didn't know if I could do the courtroom piece. And I made the team. It was the first year they had second-year law students on the national team, and our team won first place in the regionals. We went on to the nationals, and we were very successful. Moot court night was the first night my late wife met my parents. They came in for that. And if it wasn't for the moot court experience on top of the debating, I'm not sure I would have had the confidence to do what I did. But on day one, after I was a lawyer and when I started practicing, I felt I could go in and try a case. I felt like I could do it. I wasn't worried about it because I felt I could stand up. And as long as I could do the preparation, I could handle the rest. And I really felt that based on the moot court experience. Clerked for Jack Day on the Ohio Court of Appeals. He offered me the job in the library at Case when he used to work after work. 2 years with him, that's when I knew I wanted to go into trial law. He was a very successful trial lawyer in his day and convinced me that this is what I wanted to do. Shortly after that, I formed my own law firm. I decided after a short stint at another firm that I can do this myself. And I had a partner, and we ultimately formed a firm in 1982 and grew that firm into the largest civil litigation boutique in Cleveland. We were 20 lawyers, 43 employees. We won the Weatherhead School, one of the 100 fastest growing businesses in Northeast Ohio twice. And that firm was highly successful and very sought after. And it wasn't until I lost my wife within a year of that that I felt the weight of it, because I was generating most of the business of the law firm to support that group. And I was approached by Thompson Hine. That was a law firm that was a big client of mine. They asked me if I wanted to join. And I said only if I could bring everybody else, my family, my partners, my associates, the staff, and so they agreed. So the entire firm went over to Thompson Hine in 2002, and that's where I served on their executive committee and led their firm-wide litigation practice for 3 years. But after 11 years of that, I decided I had this hankering for working on the cases I wanted to work on, the type of cases that I wanted to work on, and you can't do that in a big firm with conflicts, and a big client comes in and says, we want you to do this, Steve. So after almost 11 years at Thompson Hine, I gave them notice. They were shocked because I was very happy. I had no reason to leave. Walked out the door by myself, and my secretary came with me, and she knew I was going to do this the day she typed my resignation letter. And over 9 years, I built that to 10 lawyers in 4 states. We were in Illinois, Chicago, Washington, New York, and Cleveland. And at that point, I started that when I was 60. Now I get to about 71. I couldn't do this forever. There wasn't a runway for everybody else because I was still generating almost all the work. And so after looking at some options, I merged the firm with Ulmer Byrne. And that's where I am now and largely retired. But that's the trajectory. And in the course of that, I had the fortune of working for some incredible clients and winning some very, very large trials, particularly in Northeast Ohio. I never tried a case as second chair. The very first trial I ever had, the law firm I went to right after the clerkship, I was there for about 2 years, they had a criminal case and they said, here, take this. Never handled any case. And I tried that case by myself, picked a jury, won, and I never looked back. I was first chair all the way through after that. And that's how I became known, and that's how I developed the business in Cleveland, because I was a first chair guy and would go in and would be very forceful in the case. And that's ironically how I got John Glenn as a client. I had represented Lee Fisher in an election contest challenging the results of the Attorney General race. And some years later, John Glenn and his political campaign committee had a significant problem. The big law firm that represented them had a conflict, couldn't do it. And so I was approached and I took on John Glenn, and he became a lifelong friend. I represented him on any number of matters. I was an advisor to him in the Senate on a variety of political and judicial matters, judicial appointments, and it was a long-standing friendship and relationship with John Glenn. And the 2 good things that happened with John are, one, he invited me to join his family when he went back up into space when he was in the 70s. And we sat there at Cape Canaveral in the family viewing stands watching him go back up. And the other thing is, after he was up, he was honored by NASA in Washington, and they closed down the National Archives for this dinner with some members of Congress, NASA, his family, a few friends, and I got seated, and I sat with the family at his table, and my late wife was there. I'll never forget this. And he pulls out the ketchup and pours it on the chicken that he was going to eat. And my wife starts cracking up, said, you put ketchup, that's what I do. And the 2 of them went on for 10 minutes. He was just a really normal, approachable guy, and he was just a great human being. I had handled and won a lot of eminent domain jury trials on behalf of property owners in the Cuyahoga Valley with the government taking their property. And Cleveland owned the Cleveland Airport, and they had just acquired the IX Center and 150 acres inside the city of Brook Park. Brook Park filed a lawsuit to take all that property from Cleveland to prevent the airport expansion, and I was hired to defend the city of Cleveland in that lawsuit. We were able to get the judge disqualified, which was no easy task. I don't have enough time to tell you that story. And we tried that case for 5 weeks and won a clean sweep verdict. Everybody, every legal professional and every expert predicted we were going to lose that case. It was covered in the media constantly, and we won that case. And that preserved the ability to keep the airport in Cleveland. That was a huge one. The second one was the Flats East Bank. I represented the Port Authority and the developer in assembling about 15 acres of land to do the East Bank development, commercial development. And we had a fight with, I'll call them the Star Wars bar of property owners. They were all just, one was nuttier than the other. And we tried that case for 5 weeks and got it resolved after 5 weeks. And that was a big success for the city of Cleveland. And the last one, and this is where Mayor Mike White again hired me to come in to replace another law firm that hadn't made progress. LTV was in bankruptcy. LTV submitted a plan to the bankruptcy court to close down the coke ovens. And so long as they're active, somebody else can come in and operate them. As soon as you close them down, you can't start them up again without massive amounts of environmental damage. It would make it impossible for a new company to come in and buy them. So I went in and I got an injunction from another bankruptcy judge to stop what the second bankruptcy judge was doing, and had to go in and try that case 3 days later. Judge said at a hearing, he said, "You're going to have to try this one in front of me." And with the injunction in hand, we convinced the judge that we had a meritorious situation, and he sent everybody into the backwoods, and we got the case settled. That kept those ovens alive, and the steel industry stayed in Cleveland. Without that, we would have lost our steel industry. I would say those are the three that stand out as, and they're all local, happen to be local. I handled a lot of injunction cases all over the country, but those three cases were here. Got a call about the benchers and the fact that I was going to get in from most recent Dean Scharf. And I was, as I told him, so humbled by it because, first of all, there are some great lawyers that have come out of case and my class. And to be recognized this way, to have somebody look at what I've done, sort of the collection of my life, and say it's meritorious of this designation, means the world to me. And it's where I started, and it feels incredible to come back and get that recognition. That means a great deal to me. What does the next generation of lawyers need, and what's it going to take to continue the success of lawyers in the profession? I'll get to case in a second, but I think that what did it for me, and I think what's important for law students to think about, is it's not about the money, it's not about the title, and it's not about the glitz that comes with a law job. If that's what's motivating you, you'll last for a very short period of time. You need to find a cause that you're passionate about, and there are lots of them. Some involve litigation, some don't involve litigation. Be passionate, work relentlessly hard at what you're doing, and be a force for the cause. And if you bring that passion and that preparation to the cause, you'll last a career just like I did. That's exactly what kept me going. And I think that case is going to play a major role in training some of the best lawyers of the generation of future lawyers to come. And I say that because I've watched case, over the years, and it had some earlier years and mid-years and even later years that weren't going so well. But under the leadership of the two co-deans, Scharf and Berg, they've done a phenomenal job of rebuilding the framework of this law school. And I know that some of the programs that are developed, particularly, and this is what connects to me, the experiential program and the training of lawyers to be prepared to go into court and to get that training in law school. I never really got much of that. I had to learn it on the job. Is a huge, huge advantage for a law student. And I think that case will be successful in attracting the best students that are looking for futures in making impacts like the opportunity I had, because they've got it. They understand what they need to do as an educational institution. So I'm very positive about CASE's ability to do that.